Hey there, calculus people. How you doing? Just going to try to explain one free response question for you, just to kind of get you to have a feel for what a free response looks like and kind of how you go through and answer some of these parts. The other thing I'm also going to do is I'm just going to review some of the calculus rules with you because this format you might not have seen before. So on Friday, we had taken a look at this problem. So I want to present this to you now. And we are going to take a look at it. So what you can see here is you can see the problem that we were taking a look at. And I'm going to kind of go into this now. The first thing you do have to notice is you don't need to read always the whole problem. This is going to be very similar. Once you read it once, you're good. You just need to know a couple of things. You need to remember that a graphing calculator is required for this one. You also need to remember that there are going to be 3 decimal places in your answer. Other than that, it's going to give you all of the information. You now need to read the main part of the question, okay? So it says, unless otherwise specified, the domain of the function is assumed it's the set of all real numbers, okay? So we assume that the domain is all real numbers. Now, notice they gave you a table. So of course, you know, that's going to be important. And the table above gives values of a differentiable function g. That's very, very important. Remember, if it's differentiable, it also means that it is continuous on its domain. Okay, so you need to remember that. And its derivative, okay, is the selected values of x. Also, f of x is defined by this function. Now, it's very important to realize that you do need a graphing calculator for this, and it is going to come in handy when you kind of get through the problem. And I'm going to tell you a few little tricks of the trade when you go through and do this. So here's the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to start working through and answering these questions, kind of looking at what we have. So it says using the values of g from the table, okay, find g prime of 5. You need to remember, okay, it even tells you using the values of g. It doesn't say using the values of g prime. It says using the values of g. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to show you how to do this problem. So we know we have the value of g, and in part A, we want to find g prime at 5. Well, on the table, they give us some values. They give us the value at 4, and they give us the value at 6. So x is 4, and y and x is 6, and then we get these values. We get 5, and we get 2. Now remember, g prime of 5 is the slope, and it should be the instantaneous one at 5. But we can't figure out the instantaneous slope at 5 because there is no 5 on this thing. If there was, we could just pick g prime of 5 right off the table, but we can't. So what that means is we have to estimate. That's where you have to use average rate of change. So remember, to do average rate of change, you just need 2 points. We have the first point, 4, 5, and we have the second point, 6, 2. So do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So we're going to do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I'm going to do 5 minus 2, because I'm going to call this point 1 and this point 2, and then I'm going to do 4 minus 6. So I get 3 over negative 2. So g prime of 5 is equal to negative 3/2. What they expect you to do for this one is they expect you to get the answer. Okay? So this is 1 point. If you don't get the right answer, you don't get the point. So that is how you go about doing question A. Now, question B is a little more interesting, okay? Because question B, let's kind of read through it. It says, if r is the function defined by this, it says r of x is equal to f of x minus g of x. Okay, so we have that, and then we also want to find r prime of 2. So we want to know what r prime of 2 is. So let's write that out. R of x equals f of x minus g of x. Okay, and we want to find r prime at 2. So here's the things you have to kind of look at. This is the function. It's saying it's f of x minus g of x. Remember, we have a rule. It's called the sum and difference rule. And sum difference rule. And what that says is we take the derivative of each part and we can subtract them. So if I want to find the derivative of r of x, it's just going to be f prime of x minus g prime of x. Okay? Well, let's think about something here. We want to find r prime at 2. So that means I need to find f prime of 2 and g prime of 2. Now, one of them is a little easier than the other. If you remember in this problem, g prime of 2, they gave you in the table. So go up here and take a look, and we can see g prime of 2 is 4. So right away, I know we are going to subtract 4. Now, the trick is, though, how do you get f prime of 2? And you need to remember that in the very beginning, they gave us a very strange function that we have to use. And this is what it is. It says f of x equals x times the sine of the square root of 3x squared plus 5, all in parentheses. Now, you don't know how to find the derivative of that, but your calculator does. So let's clear everything here. You'll notice I have extra things, so I have to make sure you clear your calculators. Also, make sure that all of your stat plots are off. Now, the first thing you got to do is you just have to put the function into the calculator. My biggest suggestion is when you have to use a function in a free response problem, I right away put the function into one of the equations, because I know at some point in time, I am going to need to use it. So second square root of 3x squared plus 5, close the parentheses, and then I need to close that second set of parentheses. So I closed that one. I closed that one, and I need to close that one. So I have actually 3 sets of parentheses. Notice there's 3 sets. There's 1, 2, 3. So I have to have 1, 2, 3 here to close those off. Okay? And I'm going to graph it, but I'm going to go to Zoom Standard because I know I'm probably just going to need a standard window. And so this is what I get. You notice it's a very weird oscillating function. Now you should recognize that this is an odd function. It rotates around the origin 180 degrees, and it matches up. So this is an odd function, but this is what it looks like. So remember back to our problem. It says I want to find f prime of 2. Well, there's a real easy button to do that. Go to second and calculate. Okay? So I want you to use second calculate. And then what you get down here is you can find the derivative at any point. So here's my calculator. I want to find the derivative at x equals 2. And it gives me negative 2.448. So I'm going to put negative 2.48. Remember in the instructions, it said they want 3 decimal places. So how do I find f prime, r prime of 2? I take the derivative of f at 2, and I take the derivative of g at 2, but I have to find it from different places. Now we just subtract all of them. So let's get out of here. Let's clear this. I'm going to go second quit, and I'm just going to do negative 2.448 minus 4. And my final answer, so r prime of 2 is equal to negative 6.448. Now, this is going to be 2 points, just so you know. What they're going to be looking for is they're going to be looking that you did the work to do that, okay, and you knew what to do. You used the sum and difference rule, and they're going to be looking for the final answer. Okay? So now, let's move on to the next one. Question